cost. So these are just pie in the sky number that we're going to talk about right now. It's the best information that we have today, along with what kind of shape it could be. There's really not been any design done. These are just a concept of what it might be. So you're going to see here there's 3 different locations that we looked at. Again, just a little bit of the history. We looked at it possibly going back here, which is where we had originally said could be band practice, and where now we're looking at putting an access road and that it would be a future parking area. We decided not to put it there. There's a little bit of raising grade, and it would be a little more expensive in that location. So we're also looking for what is the best location cost-wise. Originally, we had the pool to go right here, which is right off of the gym. So what happened during construction is we hit a very large vein of rock there. It would be cost prohibitive to try to put it in that location. So then we started looking at, well, what if it's somewhere near the stadium? So that's what we are looking at today, is what if this location is here by the field house building and on the visitor side of the football stadium. So another view here is that you're looking down at the stadium, and that was not me, that is just the graphics that did that. I know how to go walkway. But anyway, this is the walkway now, which is where concessions are. And so we would add a new walkway in the aquatic center, again, just to get you oriented of where we are as far as the proposed stadium in relationship to the aquatic center. And then the next one is looking at it from, if you were in the stands, looking back, you would see that this is the concessions and field house again. And so we would just continue a walkway around to an aquatic center, okay? And then we're going to show you the site plan, and we felt like if we just put this up, it would be hard for you to understand where you were. So now you know where you are in relationship to the track. The red part is the track, and that's the football existing field house. And again, this is just a blue rectangle. We don't have a shape yet. It's just trying to understand the magnitude of where it would be and how much square footage. So we've come up with roughly 25,000 square feet, 24.5, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how we got to that point. We do have, in the gray area is parking, and then we would have some new parking. Whether that's enough or not, we don't really know yet. We're constrained a little bit in that we do have some retention areas out here, so you would think, as big as this site is, we would have enough room for all this, but it's immediately getting smaller with everything that we've added with all the other amenities. So how did we get here? This is, go back one. This is just a very conceptual interior. Okay, again, nothing has really been designed. This is just looking at what could it look like. So we have 2 different views, one looking one way at it and one looking at it the other way. The windows that you see here could possibly be looking out onto the field, and then further and beyond that, you would go out a door and you would be on that walkway that we're talking about. There's lots and lots of different things that could happen with this. Again, this isn't by any means the final design. We would have a lot more work to do before we got to that point. But just to give you some kind of an idea of what it could look like. So this is a similar pool. I should have said, we're working with another company that's a pool expert called CHA, and they've also worked on the stadium and the several different projects for Sullivan County track and things like that. So this is one that they did that was very similar in that you have the viewing section. Of course, the pool's over here, but you see at the top there's a walkway, and you can look out, so you could look out onto the field through that walkway. You would come out a door, and then again, that would be the part that connects you back to the concession stands in the field house. So it would be seamless all the way around. And I know the games that I've been to, that's been a hangout right by the concession stand, and everybody's kind of hanging out, on the rail. So this would give a lot more space, and it would also give a little space. Maybe you'd let the visitors be on one side and the home teams on the other. But just to kind of show you, this is one that's actually been built. So then, looking at the program, how did we get to that number? Where did we start? So we again took CHA's recommendations on pools that they've done for high schools. I know you can't read these numbers, but looking at groups of space, you obviously have to have the correct size of pool. So we talked about, is it an Olympic pool? Is it a high school standard pool? What is it? We did not do the Olympic pool. We looked at how many lanes could it be, you know, all those types of things. And once we settled on something, we have a square footage for the pool area. We have square footage for the support areas, locker rooms. We looked at, a request was to put in a wrestling program, so we looked at that. We looked at 2 mats, we looked at 1 mat. Right now, we have 1 mat, 40 by 40. And we did look at some other spaces, storage and things like that, but this is where we settled on of how we got to the square footage. And then if one more time, that brings up where we are. So we're at 18,410, and that's just the base square footage of all the different program requirements that we worked on that you guys have asked for. And then if you add in the gross square footage, it gets us to that 24.5. So there was quite a bit of work going into it just to get us to that point. All right, and then the next slide is how much is this going to cost, which is the big question. So this is just a math problem right now. Again, the bottom line is 11.5, but that number could, as you well know, it could change quite a bit if we take things out, if we add things back. We took costs of the natatorium, which is the pool spaces, and we have that a higher square footage number, and then the rest of the building is a lower square footage number. That combination gets us to like a raw building cost. And then we added in the elevated walkway that we talked about, and then we have soft costs as well, and we base those soft costs on other building projects that we've done for you guys. So that's how we got to this point here.
2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
One, does your plan include, is it connected with what we have so that people can?
Yes.
2.
Yeah. And we left this up. I know I'm standing in front of it, but to refer back to it,
okay.
You'll come down the balcony, and then you would have a balcony this way. And we can leave this here for you guys if you want.
Okay, on the previous screen, or the previous to the last one, I thought I saw where you had allowed 150 square feet for concession.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
Yeah, what we did is we mirrored. We mirrored the concession stand that we have now. There's several different pieces of that, and the programming.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to the programming right in there. But we did similar size, if that's the question, to what you already have now.
I didn't.
Yeah, it's a similar size to what we have now.
So you're doubling what we have.
Well, we have one existing, and we're just replicating that in this building.
So it's one of the concerns for me, and it was on the previous slide, I think. I just caught a glimpse of it when you went through, but I saw we really need more concessions, because at any game, it's just, I mean, we're missing business, and people are not getting,
right.
I mean,
yeah. So we
really
would design something on that second level very similar to what you already have.
perfect.
Where would the wrestling program be housed, the way that you envision? I know you don't have a plan yet.
Yeah, we don't really have a plan yet. That might go on the upper level. We're just really not that far along. All we're doing right now is just saying that we need this much space, and this goes in the program, and then that number gets us to the cost. So right now we have it programmed in, and we have the cost in.
Can it be designed as an alternate in case the cost figures are an overload?
Yeah.
Is why I'm asking where it's located.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, like this, we have different phases of design. So this is called the programming phase. It's the very, very first thing. And then from programming, if you guys decide to move forward, then you would move into schematics. So we're not even into schematics yet.
Okay.
This is just conceptual. We don't even know what the shape of the building would look like, or the outside of it yet at this point.
Or for the location of the concession stand for the as far as...
Well, I mean, I know that that's going to want to be on the second floor.
Right.
I think it would be just almost identical to what you have now, but just on the visitor side.
Okay, to clarify what I said for everybody, it's 250 square feet. It's 150 in concession and 100 for storage.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that now.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's the exact same size you have now. Of course, like I said, it can be, these numbers can be anything we want them to be at this point. This is just for you to look at and review.
I just want to make sure it was in that cost.
But with that, on that concession, we're gonna have it where they can purchase from the balcony and inside? Is that what we're looking at?
Well, what we were gonna do is, right now, let's pretend like we're at the end of the field house. You know how we have a window there and they can do it from both ends?
Right.
There's no reason why we couldn't do it over here or over here, you know, wherever we would want to make that happen. So you would still have, it's just like you're on that same viewing balcony that we have now, we're just extending it. And whatever made sense, I mean, it could be in the middle if you wanted it to be, but.
I like the idea of the end,
Yeah,
because you have
because you
the
can- you can
visitors
do-
closer.
Yeah, so what we can do is just simply move these stairs forward on the page so that you can have a corner, you know, where you have two windows.
But aren't you asking, Mr. Robinson,
Yeah.
if you could purchase from inside
And outside.
Mhm.
and
Oh, for the
from like
pool
the
itself?
swing, yes.
Yeah, I think that, that we could definitely make that
I
happen,
just wondered with
Yes.
that, if it would mess with our
right?
concession area. The more windows you put, the less area you're going to have to put stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking that
Mhm.
question.
Yeah, we could try to make something where it,
A
you know,
dual
had something on one
side.
side and something on the other side. Sorry, I didn't understand.
Then, Janine, I guess from our conversations, I mean, 6 lanes,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
One wrestling
Mhm.
area,
Mhm.
and then, was there any?
Yeah, and there was a, you know, there's a question of how many spectators do you want to have? And then for the viewing area, like we were showing, I think 3 rows, it could be, if you need more viewing. There's a lot of things to talk about, but we just had to stop somewhere, and this is where we landed.
Even locker rooms and restrooms.
Yeah, all the locker rooms, restrooms, sport areas. And we have a lot of restrooms already, as you probably remember in the field house, we don't technically need them, but by code, if we add more restrooms, then we get to add more permanent bleachers. Because if you'll remember before, we had to say that these are portable with a number of restrooms. It has to be this ratio between the bleachers and the restrooms. So that's extra little bonus.
These cost figures are $350 a square foot for non-swimming area versus $450 for the swimming part.
Mhm.
If we were looking at trying to find an alternate that would reduce the price, then we'd try to look at square footage that would show us how much we could reduce it by. Is that?
Right, but I can tell you right now, you're not gonna reduce anything out of an auditorium.
No, I know.
It's the, yeah, it's the minimum, you know, I mean.
I'm looking at the other
Yes,
areas that we're
yes,
talking about.
right. And this is, you know, there's not really much fluff in that program. It's, we've added really the wrestling department, but everything else is pretty much, you know, you have to have concession, you gotta have a locker room, you gotta have, you know, all the support spaces for pumps and things like that for the pool, so there's not a whole lot of extra program space in here.
Yeah, the wrestling's about the only thing that looks to me like it could be an alternate if we,
That and the walkway, that's a, you know, an extra
And-
piece.
how much did you estimate on the walkway?
We had 250,000 plugged into that, but of course, you know, there's a lot of variables with that too. Do you?
If we don't do the walkway, we defeat the purpose of trying to
Exactly.
benefit
Yeah.
the fans on the business side,
Mhm.
plus give our fans more
Yeah,
room to
one
move around.
thing, you know, you might be able to do is like, what if you just had a small one?
Right.
So at least you can get concessions and you would just, instead of having to go all the way across, maybe it stops right there or something like that.
The 2 things for me that would be kind of non-negotiable would be the walkway and the concession.
Mhm.
Those components add to,
Right,
serve so many other purposes.
right.
Because that balcony is probably the best seats, you know, for a lot of disabled and old, and sometimes me. That's a good place to, people love that spot.
Right.
With the one wrestling mat, would that benefit?
Say it louder.
The one just wrestling?
Maybe
mat?
more for practice, I don't know about for meets,
Yeah.
anything like that. Well, you gotta have one, but you got your seating and everything like that, so, I
I
don't know.
think that
It'd just be a practice.
that would, yeah, and that would still be auxiliary gym back in the
Okay.
main building,
Yeah.
or the main gym, however you want to set it up. So, but again, just so you understand, this is just, our task was to program, try to figure out how much square footage you need, and what the budget would be, and just a concept of where's a good location for it. So that's really
So the next step, if we want to move forward, is to have you guys come up with a real set of plans,
Mhm.
which I went back in my notes we talked about it once more, and I'm sure there's some cost difference, but that's a fairly,
Yeah, and we have that in the budget.
oh, is it in it?
It's in the budget, that's part of the
Good.
soft cost.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah. Mhm. So what we did again is, maybe Rick, if you don't mind going back to the budget, we have soft costs in there. So this is the building cost, would be 10.6.
Okay,
And then by the time you add all the soft costs, it's 11.5. And so we have in there engineering services, testing, you know, all the things that we thought. We have 200 in there for FF&E and technology. And then we've also built into the price of the construction, we've got 3% for escalation of cost, and we also have 5% contingency.
very good.
So we've learned a little bit.
That's good. Back in the original plans, we have never had an actual cost figure for a pool back when we first started designing it. We just talked about location and had some ballpark figures, if I remember correctly.
We did, yes, we,
I'm saying that for clarification, because there's a lot of new faces in the
right.
room in the discussion.
So at that time, of course, the prices were very different, as you well know, since COVID. But we did have a budget that we did from a third party that gave us some numbers, and I can't remember exactly what they were, but I've got that I can.
And I went back and looked at some of those.
Yeah, I believe that we did that
And
in
it was
about
mainly-
2016,
Yes.
maybe?
And it was mainly just a shell of a building, because we were going to use the bathrooms
Yes.
and dressing areas of the main
Right.
gym to where it was located.
Mhm.
So it's pretty obvious that these prices here are going to be higher, because
Right.
we're making it self-standing,
Right.
where the other one was different.
So just to put it in perspective, the non-natatorium space is $350 a square foot. We built Westridge, I believe it was around 160. So that puts it in perspective.
So we got a bargain, didn't we?
Yeah.
And if we were building it now, it would cost us $150
Well, we
million.
also have a 3% escalation in there. So whenever we bid the middle school and the high school, we got phenomenal numbers for the building. Yeah, I should keep this on an upbeat note. That is a day that will be no more probably. But anyway, I think we've got this very realistic of today's dollars, where we are today. So we also have, well, let me stop here. Does anybody else have any questions on the pool? Because we also have something else we want to share. Okay, we have some fun news on what we've been working on for the last 18 months. And these are the projects that we have, mostly Rick has been working on. This is projects that are completed, or they're out to bid, or they're on the boards right now. And so you can see there's a long list of projects here. A lot of things have happened. We've got a lot of roofs that have happened. We've got HVAC work. We've done athletic work. And if you guys will remember, I believe this was a couple of years ago, whenever we were looking at trying to do a couple things to east and doing the new entry and all that. Someone mentioned, why aren't we spending this money on roofs and things like that, and maintenance and HVAC, and we did, you all did. So we have got, you can read the different projects, but there's a whole lot, and scroll down, I think
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to scroll.
Okay.
Two fingers.
So-
Sorry, I'm a PC.
Yeah. So the really big news here, and all this that we've talked about, we've completed $2.6 million. Okay, we have another $3.5 million under contract. We've got another 1.9 bidding, and we have another 1.7 budgeted. So total, $9.9 million we've spent in the last 18 months doing all these projects. I think, what is it, like 28 or so, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's a lot, yeah. So we need a little round of applause for Chris and Michelle for getting all this. It's a lot. But seriously, I mean, there's a lot of schools that have been touched in the system. And so you guys have a copy of this as well.
Multiple
Who has it?
roofs, multiple
Who has that
HVAC
copy?
projects.
We've emailed it around, I think, right?
Email.
Well, I've got this, I've emailed it to Mr. Carter, so
Oh,
you've got that information.
Send me a copy.
Is the project for the design of the construction center at West Ridge on there?
Yes.
I can't,
Yes, yeah.
is that out for bid yet?
So we have, like, the ones in gray are the ones that we've completed
It
already.
is, okay.
Yeah,
Next week.
and,
Not that I have a special interest
that's
in
up at the
that.
top. Yeah, so we've got, we say on here where you got the money from, ESSER two, Safe Schools, Innovation Grant, and so forth. I mean, you can send this list.
Okay.
Um,
You said that was 9.9 million.
It's 9.9 million, yeah. Yeah. So,
And we put new roofs on at least 5 schools, if I'm not mistaken. We've got Indian Springs and Middle
we've
Period,
got,
Cliff City.
We've
Yeah.
done 4 roofs, 2 HVAC projects, 1 security project, and then the rest of it is all facility
Right.
enhancements.
Does that include the work that you're doing on the 3 schools, east, Middle Period, Indian Springs, as far as facility
Well,
assessment?
wait a minute, there's a little parts and pieces, so we have done some at East, but I think you're talking about the East entry. No, that does not include that,
Okay.
yeah. And it does not include the Indian Springs
Or-
additional
Or Mary Hughes.
or Mary Hughes. Yeah,
That's the only other 3 big projects that we've asked for that.
yes,
Sullivan.
yeah.
And
And yeah,
Sullivan,
Sullivan
Chris Candy.
does not include that,
Right.
yeah.
But at East is not just the entryway, I mean, aren't we looking at,
So at
More
East,
than that?
At East High School,
Yeah.
we've done the science labs, renovation of the science labs. Currently out to bid is a STEM classroom renovation, and then we've also done the tennis courts there at East High School.
we have baseball lighting,
And the baseball lighting's coming up.
and even before that, we did the turf,
So that's up there when I get this email?
yeah.
as far as the rest of those 3, it kind of got put on hold. And the ESSER projects kind of took the front, so it would have to be picked back up.
Mhm.
That's,
Yeah, but, just so you know too, we had crazy deadlines to try to get this ESSER two funding out, almost impossible. And, Rick, just hats off to you, he just pushed these things through, and we were able to get them all bid and completed, and as Chris and Michelle say, build the final billing and all the requirements that we had to make. So it was quite a task, and a great task, a fun task. We appreciate being a part of it. But I just wanted you to understand how much you've done.
The rebid at Sullivan East Middle on the enclosed porch, I saw it. Why is there a rebid on that?
we got 0.
We had no
No
bidders.
bids for some?
Sullivan East.
Sullivan East Middle School with the enclosed porch for the innovation grant. But I saw that in the paper again, so.
Hopefully we get some this time.
Yes, sir.
Fingers crossed. We're hoping the timing of the bidding is gonna help that.
Okay.
And just to give you an idea, of the process that we go through, not only do we send this out to be advertised in the newspaper, but I send the drawings and specs, like, for instance, the East Middle School porch, I sent that to 14 different contractors directly. So we're getting them directly to them, so that they don't even have to see it in the newspaper and go get it.
Right.
They're getting it the first day.
Now, this
So
is,
we're trying everything we can to get them out there
Right.
to bid.
this is not ESSER money, this is state
It's
money,
innovative.
so it's, so we're not under a deadline.
Well, we're under a 4-year deadline.
Right,
But
but
we're
it's not
in
like-
year 2 still
And
right
what's
now.
this money?
The innovative school model grant,
Okay.
so it's 500,000 for that particular project.
Is it detailed in this?
It's
Yeah, we do have, yes.
in there.
So
It's
we say
ISM,
what kind of grant, whatever, if it's ESSER two, ESSER three.
Innovative, or ESSER 2 and ESSER 3.
Yeah, there's 5 projects that are innovation grant right now. There's the Health Science STEM Lab at East High School. There's the East Middle School porch enclosure. There's the West Ridge Construction Lab, the Sullivan Heights Middle School STEM Classroom, and the Sullivan Central Middle School STEM Classroom. So of all of those, 2 of them are out to bid currently. The third one will be out to bid next Wednesday, and the other 2 are in design right now. We're working with the staff there, with Debbie, and getting the design moving on those 2.
Ms. Buckles, I don't know, do we even want to mention right now about the new information about the glass at all with that?
I've already-
You talked,
already spoken
okay,
to it, yeah.
all right. Just, there's gonna be some more requirements because of safety about having glass that's glazed in any new construction, so that wasn't necessarily in place when we were starting this process.
I think that started July 1.
Yes.
Yeah. And we've already picked that up on the East High School. So the classroom there is going to have the film in it.
Just
The
really
porch,
just,
the porch, there's really no need to
Second
understand
floor.
because it's second floor.
and then like the
Construction
security
lab.
entrance,
The security entrance is,
right?
and the construction lab really doesn't have any windows.
Okay, well, that is all what we have.
We appreciate it.
And I can leave that here, just so you can have something fun to look at. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And the schematics is next, right? Schematic drawing for the conceptual drawing,
Yep,
that's next.
yep,
Next
we'd love to do that next.
Do we have to give them the, or they just, they come out of that?
But we'd have to give them the go-ahead
Yeah.
to take that next step. We've got to jump off the diving board is what it is. All right. Thank you, Janine and Rick, for being here.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Maybe when you leave, you can wave that door a few times. and get
Okay,
scared.
we will.
We're warned. We are, apologize to everybody, we're having,
appreciate all you've done.
back today, but
Thank you.
again, it's kind of not under our control right
I'm glad to hear it's just not me.
now. No.
You feel it?
Thank you, thank you.
Should we just leave it open? Is there a reason to?
Being the next bill.
And I definitely think, recognition of the board's vision, I was not here during all this, but to have that number of projects completed and to envision that kind of help to our infrastructure, I think is outstanding. So the board needs to be commended on that, I really feel like. So thank you, and thank you all for, they had notebooks and notebooks and notebooks, a shelf full of notebooks on these projects, so Esser has probably been in their dreams and nightmares a lot.
Not dreams.
Not dreams.
Yes.
Yeah,
The next thing on our work agenda is an overview of the 22-23 budget. This was in response to a document that we received, and you should have copies of that. Oh, good, all right. Ingrid's got that, and she's going to do a shorter presentation, but she has documentation on each line for you to review. And if there are questions, Ingrid's already said any questions, she'd be glad to take those individually if that's the case. Ingrid, can I help? That's, yeah.
Original revised.
I didn't bring mine in that
Okay.
So you should have 4 different packets of information. One should look like this.
I don't have that one. I got it here.
think I handed it up, man. Okay.
You got one that's got colors on it. You got one that's black and white. You got one that's the FY23 original budget compared to FY24 original budget. And one that's FY23 budget revised, or revised budget compared to FY23 actual expenses. Does anybody not have one? Where's estimates for everyone?
That's your extra stuff.
You had two sets of other the same ones.
So, I have shared with you the two black and white big thick packets. I've shared that in Google Doc with you, so you should have that on your email and you can read it. I tried to print it big enough to where you could read it, but you probably need a 16 by 32 to get it printed out to where you can read it. So, you can't read everything on there, it's gonna cut it off. But when you go on this document, right here that you have in your email, you can see both of those on there. I'm not gonna go through each and every line item of that. If you wanna go through that when you get home, or can't sleep one night and wanna go through line item, if you have questions, feel free to email me, text me, call me, whatever, and I'll be glad to explain what I've done. I've tried to color code your Google document so that you can match it to this document. This is the document we received from Mr. Bailey on December the 15th and asked to review it. So you'll notice that my document here is trying to color code to match to these columns here.
Okay, I have a question before
Sure.
you ever start. So,
Sure.
you've got this document from Mr. Bailey for us to review, or is this the one that Mr. Iverson, or one and the same?
One and the same.
Okay.
I'm not sure how it came about, but Mr. Bailey and Ms. Buckram came over and asked us to review this before they presented it to anybody else, and that's what we did. This is the same document that Mr. Iverson was referring to last month in the meeting, wanted to know if I'd reviewed it or not. So this is it. You'll notice the first column on the B document is yellow. You'll find the yellow on there that should correspond to that. I was going to make my notes on this document. It was a mess, so I didn't do that. I tried to save you from that confusion. Again, feel free to go through that Google sheet, and there's two tabs on it. Those two tabs should represent the two big thick packets that you have. And what I tried to do, if there was an increase or a decrease, I tried to explain why that was there. So if you see on this one right here, you can see that in computer repair technicians for the 22-23 revised budget versus actual activity, there was $56,000 left. The reason why there was vacancies throughout the year. Again, I'm not going to go down every single line. I'm going to be here forever. But what I want to do is go over this document. This is the this is the cheat sheet that'll get you the main details there. When we create a budget, Sullivan County Schools creates a budget, we use the conservative budget approach. That means we underestimate revenues and overestimate expenditures. And you may say, why do you do that? Well, I'm hoping I can explain that to you. We underestimate revenues for one reason, actually. We have two major funding sources, local revenue and TISA. So in local revenue, there's two major funding sources of local revenue. That's property tax and sales tax. But all of our local revenues are adjusted according to the city-county split in March of the year that you're in.
Say it again, March of the year.
March. It's usually around March. We've seen it sometimes in February. We've seen it sometimes in late May. So the goal is March, but lots of things have to go into that to make it happen. And lots of those things are out of our control, and I think Mr. Bailey can vouch for that. We just have to sit and wait for the state to tell us what we got. But here we are in February, trying to make a budget to predict what's going to happen in March of next year. So we underestimate those revenues just in case we lose in the city-county split. Now, we don't estimate local revenues anymore, that's the finance department. But if they were to overestimate revenues and we were to get that city-county split where we lost, we're going to have to make up the deficit. As you know, TISA is a student-based formula, meaning you get number of dollars based on number of students. If that rate fluctuates, then our dollars that we receive will fluctuate. If it goes up, we get more. If it goes down, we get less. So again, here we are in February. We don't have the final TISA estimate for next year, but we're gonna make a budget for that. We're gonna try to figure that out. So the whole point of that is, we're gonna underestimate just because we don't know. And we'll figure that out well after the budget's approved. Why do you overestimate expenditures? There's a few things in that. Number one is professional salaries. Our professional salaries are based on degree and experience. If our staff gets a degree change, we gotta pay them for that. So let's say I'm getting my master's degree, I graduate in December, January my check changes. And we request that information up front, but we don't always get it. Somebody may have forgotten, oh yeah, I'm in a master's class and I'm graduating in December. I forgot to tell you that, but hey, I want my check changed in January and they deserve it. So we gotta predict that. Interim pay and FMLA, if I have a teacher that goes out on FMLA and she has sick time, I get to pay that teacher while she's out on FMLA and pay an interim to take her place. Now, I couldn't tell you how many teachers are going to have to use FMLA, and unfortunately, we've had several this year with some very serious conditions. So, again, that's something you can't predict, and there's absolutely no way I'll know today what's going to happen tomorrow, much less next school year. When somebody chooses to retire, whether that be December the 31st or June the 30th, we have to pay out their sick leave. If Randall was to retire today and he had 120 sick days, I'd have to pay him. Mr. Price retires today and he's got 2 sick days, I have to pay him. It's all dependent upon what they have. So that's part of our policy, and that's another number that we can't pinpoint who's going to retire or what sick time they'll have. Another big unknown is medical insurance premiums. Here we are in February, and the state hasn't given us an actual change for percentage change, so we don't get that usually until late May. Well, in late May, we should have our budget work already done. So we're just going to predict. We usually use 5%. That may be good. That may not be good. You may have to come back and fix it later. For medical insurance, it depends on what our employees take. We have different levels of coverage. It can be employee only, employee plus spouse, employee plus child, employee plus family. We don't know who's going to have a qualifying event that could change that at any time. So that would change how much we pay on that as well. So let's say I'm on single coverage right now, but I have a baby, it's a qualifying event, I can get family coverage when the baby's born. Well, that changes drastically. It goes from like $7,000 that the district pays to $12,000 the district pays annually. So that's another unknown that we have. Retiree coverage. Our employees have very good retirement benefits. And when they retire, we're going to pay their insurance till they're Medicare eligible, and then we're going to pay for the supplement. So that's another unknown. Even though you may retire, I still got to pay the replacements insurance as well as keep yours on there.
And the supplement.
There are several actual costs that we just don't know going into a budget. Legal services is the number one. We never want to say we're going to have legal services, but unfortunately, we have to have legal services to operate. It's very hard to predict what that's going to be. We try to overestimate that to make sure we're good. Liability insurance. Our liability insurance runs from December 31st to December 31st. We don't get those premiums until December. They go up. I've not known them to go down. I don't know anybody that does know them to go down. We have received, I got it on this piece of paper. In 2021, our premiums were $119,000. In 23-24, they were $879,000. So last February, when we were predicting the budget, we put in a $125,000 increase. And guess what? We were over $200,000 short. So when we try to overestimate revenue, sometimes you don't get enough. That's just another unknown. Part of our liability insurance is we have high deductibles. So if we have a car accident, we had an employee who was in a car accident that wasn't his fault. However, the person that hit him was uninsured. So we got to replace that vehicle even though we weren't at fault. Our deductible was too high, the value of the vehicle was not enough, so it's an uncovered expense. That's stuff we can't predict. We just gotta make sure we got enough money so when it happens, we can pay the bill. Other unknowns are operational and maintenance and repair service costs. Utilities, shot in the dark as to what it's gonna be. We don't know if it's gonna be a warm winter, cold winter. We don't know if electric system's gonna raise their rate. We just don't know, so you just kinda have to estimate. Building repairs, we don't know when the roof's gonna go bad. We don't know. We've been very fortunate to utilize ESSER funds, and like you just heard, it's helped a lot of schools. However, they're going away quickly. Equipment repairs the same way, and fuel costs also. You just don't know. So that's why we try to overestimate those, just in case we have a rise in whatever that may be. So, like I said, there's details on every line in that document that I shared with you. You can read some of that in there, but there's some that you can't see the whole explanation. So go in there and dig in that. If you have questions for me, I'll be glad to answer them now, or you can call me later.
Could you give everybody a quick redo of the city-county split, how it works, the difference between ADM and ADA, and there's one more thing. Go ahead and I'll think of that.
Sure. So let's start with ADM versus ADA. Average daily membership versus average daily attendance. BEP was based on average daily membership. PEACE is based on average daily attendance. So those are big numbers, acronyms that are thrown around a lot in the finance world. The city-county split, I could probably pull you up.
Explain how that in the city-county split, we can actually gain students but still lose. When you get city-county split, if they gain
Right. So, so you can see the city-county split is made up of Sullivan County, Bristol City, Kingsport City, and Johnson City schools. They get their numbers, it's an average, weighted average of those numbers, and we get, each one of us get our portion of that. They take all of our numbers, whether it's our attendance numbers, Bristol's, Kingsport's, or Johnson City's, add them all up, make a total, and we get a percentage of that. You can see over here on this side, our column is going down almost every year. Bristol's goes up and down, fluctuating, but usually Kingsport's going up. The last few years, they've been back and forth. Johnson City's so small, it really doesn't make a big impact which way they go. But,
Can I make a comment? Amy?
sure.
Did you see where she had it, and the year before last, it was 540 decrease? There was some misunderstanding that 540 was actually, we lost 540 students, and that's not accurate, is it?
No.
We actually lost 540 in the county split, which is much different. And the number of students we actually lost that year was nowhere near that, but it's confusing, right?
Yeah. We used to lose to Kingsport a lot. Kingsport and Bristol would lose students to Kingsport and Bristol. It's not that case now. And we may lose a few to Kingsport and Bristol, but we're losing them to homeschool, we're losing them to moving out of the state. It's just a lot of different things that we're losing. It's not just we're losing the city of Kingsport. And as you can see in 21, 22, 20, 21, and 19, 20, Kingsport actually lost students themselves. So,
Ingrid, going back to where you were talking about over budgeting, overestimating on expenditures, and yes, sir, these things are all connected. With learning loss monies, I think we've got $6 million up total, and District 1, 2, and 3, Angie was at $8 million. But for the past 2 years, we have benefited from that and been able to do a few of the expenditures out of ESSER money that normally would come out of our general purpose.
that's right.
Therefore, there
Textbooks,
were some savings in that, and it's kind of ironic that, you know, the $6 million, I think, total, I think 410,000 of it was for textbooks that we were able to spend out of ESSER money versus what we had budgeted. So even though the ESSER is helping us there, next year we've got to keep the money in the general purpose budget because we're gonna need it. Just because we came up with savings this year, it's not gonna help us next year because that money's gone.
So, we've been working on that this week. We, the last several years, have used about $400,000 in ESSER funds to pay for things that we would typically pay for, like infrastructure. All of our RTI programs we've paid out of that 20% of ESSER. So it's about $400,000 that we know we've been paying out of ESSER funds that, obviously ESSER's gone. So that's got to go back to where it came from originally, which was from the general fund.
Right. And then some of the equipment we bought this year, we paid for out of ESSER money of, some of the vans and things of that nature that normally would have come out of capital projects or things of that nature. And even, I think we spent some money on HVAC. I think we spent $10,000 out of Rock Springs on some HVAC out of it.
Emergency cooling.
Emergency cooling, that normally we would have taken out of general purpose. So just because that first chart that you put up showed a decrease in the savings, it may not be there next year. It won't be there next year.
You're about English textbooks next year. English is not up for another 2 or 3 years.
We haven't purchased science in how long? How long's it been since we've purchased science?
Oh, best we can figure about 6 years.
6 years, is about what we came up with.
Yeah.
So we got science first, and then right after that, on its heels will be an ELA.
That's also a number you just can't predict when you're trying to do a budget in February for the next year, because that's hard. They never go down though, that's another one that just
And you're paying about
continually goes up.
$130 per textbook. I bought a math textbook this year, $130, so I could help with tutoring. And that's unreal just for.
I mean, it don't matter that you're gonna buy 5,000 of those, they're not gonna give you
No,
a discount.
same price. So if you need one, I've got an account, but you're gonna have to pay $130.
Any other questions for Ingrid? I would like to say thank you to Ingrid with all the HR things that are going on, which are her primary responsibility, or her responsibility. She's tried hard to get this in there. I mean, I think we had to finally ask her to close your door and work on it because she couldn't get time to work on it. And so, thank you, Ingrid. Next, Ms. Robinson asked us to add the next item there, volunteer coaches. And Ms. Robinson, you want to?
I'd just like for us to look at allowing volunteer coaches to come in and help our athletic teams. I know right now I've seen it since my daughter's in middle school. You'll have 2 coaches coaching 20 to 24 kids. And I know there's volunteer coaches out there that would love to get in and help. And I've seen it with volunteer coaches. They're going to be just as dedicated as the ones we're paying. And I think even our coaches that we have there, I think they would appreciate the help also. If you've ever coached, the more you have, it's a lot easier. And I've talked to the ones at the middle school, and they're all the same way. That if they could get some extra help out there, they'd really appreciate it.
Conversation.
We've got to have a board policy on volunteer coaches, don't we? That would require a policy change, and we do. I mean, yeah, there's procedure, and there's also volunteer coaches, so it would require a new policy change and bring it back.
Does anybody know that policy number right off?
Hold on, I'll tell you. I did have it pulled up, I just shut it down, I'm so sorry.
But it says it's high school too. Okay.
It's actually a procedure, 5.116,
Sorry,
PO3.
say that again.
5.116, PO3. This is procedures. Can we put it up there?
203.
Please.
Sorry. And we'll see right down here on number 5.
And what, do we have a procedure as well?
This is the procedure. I don't have a policy for it, I just have a procedure.
Okay.
Go back up to the top of our ink,
Sorry.
5.116 or 5.136.
116.
PO3.
PO3 procedure.
But there's a policy, that same number should be.
Mhm.
That's Bill Sullivan, I'll be doing good.
We should be careful with our volunteer coaches, I think.
I'm gonna quit moving it, 'cause I'm probably making y'all sick.
I don't see it. She's looking at what I was
It doesn't
saying.
mention about coaches, it's just about the overall organizational planning, director schools, has control within budget. Mhm. And like, delineates licensed versus non-licensed.
So it's just in the procedure.
I think so.
There's different categories somewhere else, so I can get my computer to come up.
Search function.
Pulled up 3 or 4 different ones on policy, and it wasn't.
Um,
We didn't really.
Did you pull up on athletics?
Yeah, 4.301, that's the interscholastic athletics policy. But I don't know, but it talks about volunteers.
I can do some more searching on it, bring it back to the next one.
Well, and I can share, I received this from Coach King, who does soccer. He has 30 boys trying out, he's by himself. They'll have 30 at, let's see, Central, and then Sullivan Heights, probably not as many, around 20 or so. That's for the boys soccer. And so they've been asking, if we get another coach or whatever, and so.
Matthew, you're on the policy committee, aren't you? So it should go to Matthew, and I think you, and whoever else is on it, and take a look at it, and bring it back into the recommendation. Matthew's,
I think he might be on it.
I'm not sure, I can't remember. Are you on the policy committee?
I don't think I am, I think
I can't remember.
I know, I'd have to go back and look
Yeah.
where it just
I know
changed.
Matthew is.
Yeah.
Bill, we just him on there, so he's a lawyer.
Yeah. I think, and Mary was on there for a while.
That's what I'm
Well,
double,
text personnel.
Right.
double.
Maybe something else.
So it would be wise to bring it to the committee, and let the committee then bring a recommendation.
Oh, is it?
I'm remembering correctly, Angie, you might can help me here. If I remember correctly, I think several years ago, there was some kind of stink with some volunteer coach that created a situation, you know, it's like that one bad apple ruins the whole basket. If I'm not mistaken, there was something like that that went on that made everybody, central office, high school principals, appreciate and want that in because of something that went on with some volunteer person. But I don't remember the facts, and I could be even wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that was the case at the time, and I don't know if it was, I mean, now with the fingerprinting and everything else that would have to take place, there would be a little bit more,
See, I like Ruby said, just like we do our coaches now.
well, you'd have to, they couldn't be around the kids if they didn't.
Yeah, so they gotta do all that,
And there would, in my opinion, there would need to be a contract. And if they violated any of those things in that contract, whatever they might be,
yeah,
you know, you didn't have to argue for 6 months to get rid of them. You could simply say,
yeah.
you're
Yeah,
gone.
you definitely have to do the contract and everything. But right now, I feel like we're hurting our kids because we don't have enough people out there to help.
And you'd have to have a position approved by the boards so that you wouldn't just have different head coaches.
Yeah, you wouldn't want just somebody showing up, they're going to have to go through the hiring
But
process
see,
too.
but that, and I'm remembering some of this now as it comes back to me, because what will end up in lots of cases, if we do allow the volunteers, you know, in some communities, you're gonna have 5 people come out, you know, I know ball, I played ball in college, you know, blah, 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 blah. In another community, they're not gonna have anybody to volunteer or one. So then when you start competing, you've got this one school that's got 10 coaches and you got this one school over here that's got 3.
I
You
get that.
see what I'm
but-
saying?
Yeah, I get that, but I don't understand how you could punish that one school because they got people that want to volunteer and the other ones don't. I guess
I'm
how's
just
that-
throwing that out as
Yeah, I see
part
what
of
you're
part of
saying.
the facts.
As long as I've been into the rec leagues and all that, I know there's people out there that, I believe all of our schools that would want to volunteer to help, just from what I've seen in the rec, because they've seen it. They're the feeder, so they want to help our middle and high schools.
You said they volunteered whether they were supposed to or not sometimes?
Yes,
And I think in rec league,
yes.
well, see, that's different, yeah,
For us too.
I think so.
I do too.
I mean, what's the difference in, I'm just gonna
I
ask,
think we've had people do it.
what's the difference in, you know, all these extra help that they have for the band programs in the summertime? I don't think they're all paid people.
I guess the one concern I have is being able to hold people accountable.
Absolutely.
Well, that's why we did the contract like she said,
I agree.
that holds them accountable.
I saw a situation one time where I happened to be at a ball game. Some volunteer coaches, really cold, walked off and got in their car and left, and kids getting on buses, and I thought,
Who's responsible?
and I was, I wasn't even on the board or anything, I waited to make sure, and I just thought if one of those children had been left out, and that was long before I was here, but it's just, you gotta have somebody
You
that's,
still have, you know, all I'm talking is the volunteer coaches, and you're still gonna have your school paid coaches is gonna have to be there. And it wouldn't be that these volunteer coaches would take these kids to sporting events without those paid coaches. We wouldn't allow that. That wouldn't be right. You see what I'm saying? That was the problem.
That's the
You know what I'm
problem.
saying?
We need to really tighten up
It'd have
on
to be
people
spelled out.
who's in charge and say,
Right.
I think this is different from a non-faculty coach and a volunteer coach. Non-faculty, we're hiring, but they still gotta be held the same accountability if it was allowed. They would take a letter of recommendation, so they got somebody saying, yeah,
and probably maybe have it a year to year so that
so it's still check up on it each year.
There is a policy about school volunteers, 4.501. It flows down to the principal of each. 4.501.
even if you have volunteer coaches, the system is still responsible insurance-wise, liability-wise. So it's important that you have procedures in place that will make sure that you've got the right people doing the volunteering.
Right.
Because we can't delegate that responsibility.
That's why I bring that one up, because we need to make sure whatever it is doesn't conflict with the overall.
That one almost
I
sounds
mean,
like
that
it's
almost sounds
allowed,
like it covers it.
doesn't it?
I mean, to me,
It could, I think,
It's up to the grants.
it's in conflict with the procedure though.
right. I mean, the way you read that,
But it has,
That could be-
our policy has a
the way I
language,
read it.
Randall, about, being insured, because we can't legally.
I think what happened a few years ago, and it didn't just happen in Sullivan County, but it was in all school systems. You had people who were volunteering to help, and they were never, superintendent didn't know about it, sometimes. We found out about the other things.
Right, so make sure that everybody who's been in the background. Last thing on the work agenda before we go over the regular agenda is a transportation study update. Study, which news do you want?
Yeah, I'll do it. Some people were there, so I'll give a quick review for those who didn't make it. We basically discussed today how we move forward. We have decided to do a pilot program. We looked at 2 or 3 options on how many bus routes we can run and who to take them from and so forth. We're going to work on that next month. We're in the process of looking for a garage location. We've determined that the highway department cannot accommodate more than 1 or 2 buses.
We didn't determine that.
Well, he did.
I think
Yeah, it's
that.
okay.
that
Yeah, he
would-
told me that he couldn't accommodate more than that, and that's probably something we should have expected, but he kind enough to say he was helping any way that he could. We're gonna explore the possibilities at the location on the old Holston building. We're checking for heights in the roofs and see what altercations would have to be made. We have to find at least 5 bays. We don't have to have lifts, so we're gonna do pits, so that'll help with the height. I have a report, and I don't know if anybody wants to see or hear it, but from one school, I think we're about 90 days in, or 100 days, and we've cut 96 routes in one small school. Gives you an idea, when I say cut, they've combined what equals to at least 96 routes, so that's where some of our problems are coming from. For those who have not been following this, our ultimate goal is hopefully to run the bus system, have our own mechanics, have our own garage, hire our people, offer benefits and insurance, and maybe attract people who we can expect more of and expect to stay with us. We have explored the possibilities with Washington County, which is a similar size system. They do it quite successfully, and the preliminary numbers we have that we can do it for about what we do now or less. The startup cost is a little bit prohibitive. Decisions like whether we use diesel or propane buses are things to be considered. Initial inclination is that propane is quite attractive as far as maintenance and longevity. We're discussing the possibility of buying some used buses so that they all don't come off the same cycle at the same time. We're going to be very careful not to buy buses from states that are in what we call the rust belt and have a lot of rust issues. we're waiting, and by Friday, we will know how many of the contractors, if they have any issue with the tracking systems that we're already obligated to put on the buses. Ultimately, we want parents to be able to know where their children, about where they are and about what time they can expect them. And plus, the principals that are waiting on buses to come in, they'll know what time to expect the buses to get there when they got 20, 30, 40, 50 students waiting, which is quite frequent. We had some concerns from one bus contractor who has to buy buses, so he's wanting to get some idea as soon as he can. You know, if he does buy buses and we end up going into business, will we consider buying the buses he bought? And if he buys new buses and they've been well maintained, we sent word back that we would look very closely at that. It's a long project. It's going to take a long time to do it. I think the time has come to head in this direction. We can't continue to be, our student safety and everything be held subject to third parties. I think it's time that we have direct control of that, as bad as we don't need another set of responsibilities. We're already paying for it. The way I look at it is, if they're making a profit, we can take that profit and put it into benefits and wages, maybe provide a better service, and attract really good people, and provide a better service for our parents, because all what we do, safety of our students is always going to be our most important aspect. And I just see that there's a need. I think it's really kind of incumbent on us now to catch up. The tracking part of this, we're behind in today's technology. We can track a package. There's no reason we can't track a child and know where they're at. So that's a little bit of something we're probably a little behind on. But there's nothing that we can't catch up and can't get ahead of the curve on. We've had a lot of really good discussions with Mr. Spivey, Mr. Steffi, who are incredibly smart people that's been a joy to work with, and I think that we're off to a good start. But we've really taken the first step on a long, difficult journey. Does anyone have any questions, or does anybody that was in the meeting think of anything that I may have mentioned, Mr. Bobby, something I may have mentioned that I didn't?
Did you mention we're still waiting to hear on the GPS?
Yes.
Okay.
We should know Friday about the GPS. Very anxious to do that. It would be really a concern for me if there was a problem with that. That's something, and one of the contractors said some rather good questions about, can they use it, which they can. Is it going to be real time? Well, not for everyone, which means we think that would be a safety issue for just anybody to be able to see exactly where this particular student may be. And then some things we're looking at down the road will be exterior cameras on the buses, and something so that when children get in and on and off the bus, that we can identify them, because there's that chance that somebody could be picked up that really isn't, not even a student. So all the things we can do to enhance the safety. And I heard a possible story of what might have happened one time if a student got on a bus and was delivered to a school and went into school and didn't even attend the school, and was caught because we had administrators that was happened to catch that. But that raised the red flag when I hear stories like that. So I think we're and whenever I know everybody, the people who work, Mr. Robinson, when you can try to because everybody that comes has a different perspective and something different to look at. Randall sent me away with some really good questions to find out before we come back next month. We're going to do it at 3:30 every meeting day. Everybody's welcome. Ideas, criticism, so forth. But I think that's pretty much where we're at. I found somebody. I've got a notebook for anybody, or information for anybody that wants it. That information is growing. I'll get you guys a copy of the chart I had that listed how many days each bus route was cut in a particular school. So that, just something to look at. So that's where we're at, and next month, I hope to be able to give an answer about, can we use that property over there, that building, we can use the property, and how the height's been, and whether there's gonna be a problem with the tracking. If there is a problem with the tracking, that gives us an inclination that we, probably this is even more important, but we're gonna track the buses that we have control of anyway. And we have some buses that we own, and we're gonna try to utilize them this season as part of the pilot program to start kind of getting our feet wet and to get into the business, so to speak. So I'll answer any questions anybody may have, or take any ideas you have now. Otherwise, you're welcome to come next month at 3:30 to the meeting.
All right, we'll move into a review of the regular agenda. Move on over to that document. I think the first thing that we'll draw your attention to is letter 3C. That'd be Miss Magic with the JAG 10. JAG stands for Jobs for American Graduates in Tennessee. And this is a program that Governor Lamar Alexander started here in his administration. And it's been offered in high schools ever since then. That was back in probably the 80s. And recently, within the last 2 years, this course was made a full-blown CTE course that could apply to any program of study in career and technical education. It doesn't qualify as part of the concentrator status of taking the sequence courses like principles of manufacturing, welding 1, welding 2. That's still required to be a elective focus. The students can also, in conjunction with that, take this C course, which means it's a TISA fundraising course, and add it to their program of study. Basically, we got that to where we can display it.
Yeah, Dr. Palmer's.
No, maybe.
There's Dr. Palmer's back. Check your numbers. Sorry.
I don't want to steal all of Miss Badger's thunder.
Did you find it? Okay.
So I really got intrigued by this course because it was being presented at the state level to get to that place where it could be included in all programs and stuff. And it did get passed. Governor Lee passed this so that it would be part of all CTE programming in high schools. And so, as we said, it does generate the TISA funding as well. And so, Ms. Magic, do you want to, I don't want to steal all your thunder.
Sure. So as Mr. Carter has explained, JAG stands for Jobs for American Graduates. It's a program that's been around for years, actually 1981 under Governor Lamar Alexander. The program was launched. So it's a very reputable, established program. It currently lives in the CTE world and will generate TISA funding for us. And the program is all about helping our students gain employability skills that business and industry is saying that they lack. So it's those soft skills that business and industry, again, are saying that we lack. And then overall preparing our kids to be college and career ready. So the JAG model consists of a comprehensive support system designed to keep young people in school and graduating and improve their success rates as far as, again, college and career success. So increasing graduation rates. At one time it was for at-risk kids, but now they recruit all students, so academic as well as career students. And they try to focus on the students that have attendance problems, behavior issues, maybe low grades or issues with not being on a pathway to complete high school and maybe looking at dropping out. So these are some of the components that live in the curriculum, and this is not all of them, but it's employer engaged, so business and industry. There's an accountability piece. All students are followed up on after they complete and graduate. It's all about project-based learning, classroom instruction, and the way Mr. Dwyer, he's the CEO and president of the JAG program, the way he presented it was it's not a sit and get. I mean, these students will be actively working and doing things in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And the JAG motto is every young person is prepared for future success. And again, that goes along with the Sullivan County vision of, you know, graduating every student to be college and career ready. Some of the opportunities and the impacts for academic and CTE students are hire a JAG specialist for both high schools, and this would begin in 24-25. It will be a full-time position at each high school requiring a secondary teaching endorsement.
Does it matter what the endorsement is? Does it matter what the endorsement is?
No, just as long as they have a Tennessee teaching license. Support current work-based learning programs, support counselors and career guidance, and support, again, Sullivan County's vision. It generates TISA funding with the courses from level 1 to 4. Right now, the only course available is the 4th level, which is the highest tier of TISA funding. However, the new course codes for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade will be out by 24-25.
So there is a course curriculum.
Yes, and they provide that.
Standards and
So our monetary commitment to this program would be, the first year of funding, we would be responsible for $7,000. The second year, $10,000, year 3, $15,000, and year 4, $20,000. And that's the most after that we would ever have to be responsible for.
so basically, JAG Tennessee pays the rest of the teacher's salary.
The salary or better.
Well, after year 4, but year 1, they'll pay
Yes.
all but $7,000 of teacher's salary.
And that would be hiring a teacher based on our salary schedule and years of experience. So if it's $50,000, they'll pay $7,000. If it's $60,000, they'll pay $7,000.
We pay $7,000.
We pay $7,000, yes,
Right.
sorry about that.
Right.
Sorry.
So they would pay, if it's $50,000, they pay $7,000, and the JAG pays $43,000.
Exactly.
On and on.
Just some additional information. It can be taught on a block schedule, which we are on. There's 37 competencies in that level 4 course right now. Retired teachers are good candidates. Retired CTE teachers are good candidates, as well as counselors. Target students who face multiple barriers. The course eventually will be provided for 9th through 12th grade students. Average number of students in a class is 12 to 18. The position, if we went with this, would post in the spring. They would have training in July. And then, again, follow-up is required on students in the program. And all CTE students that graduate, we follow up on those every year. So that's something that we're kind of used to.
You mentioned retired teachers. Is there a cap of 60% of the salary that a retired teacher can make still get an effect?
Yeah.
So a retired teacher would be a benefit financially, would not?
Yeah.
And even, Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, they will hire the teacher themselves if we don't want to be responsible for any benefits.
Right, and if we do, they would like to be in on the process. And the key to this program is the teacher.
Mhm.
And to the success of the program. I mean, it's gotta be someone that is, you know, really cares and passionate about the student and the program and wanting those students to get from ninth grade to graduation.
Are you saying they will hire the teacher?
Now, we'd still be having that $7,000.
I know, but
responsibility, but they would actually hire.
but it wouldn't be your
It
choice.
would- Well, we'd be involved in the interview process.
I think it's important,
We
don't wanna
got-
give away
no,
that.
No, absolutely. But they will contractually hire. I think the interview process would still be ours. Does that sound?
Is that
Right.
right?
They would like to be involved in the interview, that's what Mr. Dwyer said.
If they were gonna be the ones
So what's the benefit of that other than saving on
benefits.
Benefits?
No, that, they're not gonna pay the benefits,
Well, if it's their employee, they would pay, they would work for them, basically.
The max we would pay would be that 7,000, so
Right.
whatever the package is here, you know, we would just be responsible for 7,000.
But we don't want their employee, we want our employee.
Right.
Is what-
Right.
is what I'm trying to say.
That's the best
Issues
issue.
with
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
wanting to change to.
Yeah, 'cause either way, we're gonna pay $7,000, but anytime I've found that if you bring in an outsider who's not our employee, there's the potential for more problems, so we don't wanna lose any control of,
Okay.
because you may have some teachers on staff now that would, yes.
So I'm not sure if they're employed through JAG, if that TCRS affects that or not. I'm not sure that they're a TCRS employer. So if it was a retiree employed through JAG, then maybe they could make whatever JAG will pay them.
Right. But if we're gonna get TISA funded, it then almost have to be on our record as being our employee.
I think the fund will follow the student.
Right, but,
So if they're on our course listed as C whatever,
but it's just like our ROTC instructors, they're our employees, even though the feds are paying
part of their
part of
salary.
their salary. We still pay benefits upon them.
Okay.
So they're our employees.
Should
We
be
just,
that
we need to be
same.
very careful about giving up.
Best scenario.
Yes.
And I would need to check on this, but there is a possibility that the 7,000 could be put into our Perkins Basic grant. I just need to check on that.
But that would be the one thing, it would be new positions, so we'd have to get the board's approval. And,
But you can do that during the budget process,
Right.
plus,
let's add it in the net break. The MOU, is that just saying that we're wanting to enter an agreement to, if we can get it in our budget and everything? So, do you need that signed?
Before we can start the process.
Right, and it's in your packet, right?
you've got it in the consent packet tonight, isn't it?
Mhm. So, any questions, Ms. Magic?
I would just follow up on clarifications on the things that Randall asked, because I do think they're very important, that you and Mr. Carter have clarification on that before we
Okay.
proceed.
Sure.
I was thinking they were paying their salary, but they were still our employee. But that is very important.
I think
for us
that
to
is,
clarify.
yeah, that's correct.
Even though they're paying it, they're our employee.
Right.
So
That's
we would
what-
make, they'd be fully under our
Mhm. That's what Mr.
jurisdiction or
Dwyer-
whatever.
They can do extracurricular activities like
That's,
assignments.
that, we'll need to ask that,
Yeah.
about bus duty or
They'll
whatever.
let you know in a hurry if they can.
Oh, yeah. I'm out of it.
Years ago. Bristol City just started it, and Kingsport City just started it. That's the only ones in you know, the First Tennessee
All right,
core
that's good
area,
enough.
so.
We want it to then.
So I'm gonna reach out
That's
to
good
them
enough,
to
we
see.
want it to. We're not about to let them get ahead of us.
That's right.
Rick made a note of that. You're quoting the paper tomorrow.
Moving on down into the communications to the board, a few things to note that we'll mention again during the regular meeting, but parent-teacher conferences will take place on February the 8th. Of course, this is School Board Appreciation Month as well. we certainly appreciate our board. I certainly do. I'm so grateful for all the support and help that I've received over these first 6 months, going into 7 months now. So, feels like it might be a little longer than that. But I appreciate
Thought
it.
you were in your contract.
If I had hair, it'd be gray right now. Oh, but thank you all, and we do appreciate you, and I know there's gifts from all the schools, and their appreciation being shown to our board members as well. In addition, February is also CT month, National CT month across the state and the nation, so Ms. Madge will be working on that. Noteworthy, we do have, the power is going to be out at Sullivan. Mr. Hubbard and I were talking about this earlier. So if you hear anybody in the community saying power's out, why is the power out? We're getting those units, rooftop units in, and they're going to be working on the disconnects. Do you want to explain that about the switch gear, Charlie? I don't want to do disservice to it, but pretty big deal there. We don't
The
want to
big
mess up.
chillers that we're replacing, we first had a schedule of January, and then we had February the 9th, but we found out they are shipped now. Hopefully they're coming from Colorado, I think. Hopefully they'll be in by the first of the week. I had a big meeting down there yesterday with the engineer, Holston Engineering, the contractor, everybody that's involved in it. Because when they come in, they want to set those, which will require a crane on the back. So when they found out that Thursday was parent-teacher conference day, they wouldn't mess up the line of traffic and parent pickup and stuff like that for those students. Hopefully, if the chillers get here, they plan to take the old ones off and set those on Thursday. But in the meantime, when the electrical contractor looked in the electrical room, one of those chillers does not have a disconnect on it at the roof, straight wired in. It's 480 plus. So therefore, you would have to go inside the mechanical room and throw some of those big switch gears, which they call the Pringle switch, like potato chips, okay? There's a spring in there, they told us, the contractor did, and he said it's been known that those things are supposed to be greased, maintained. Well, I guarantee you that thing has not been moved in 50 years, okay? Since it was put in, that big switch has not been done. So they were very concerned that if they did that, it would break and they couldn't get the power back on, and they said it could be 6 months or longer before you could even think about getting parts, so we would lose the building. So in the meantime, we worked today and met with AEP today. They, so far, unless something happens, they will be turning the power off at 8 o'clock Saturday morning. The contractor's coming in, they're turning the power off to the whole school. They're bypassing that switch, and therefore they can do their work on top and put another disconnect in. Therefore, that switch does not have to be done anything to it to save the chance of something malfunctioning within that switch gear. So, the power, they said, will be off from about 8 to 4. I have not got word that AEP met with that rep there today. He's pretty confident that they've got there's a bill charge for a service call or something, but other than that, that's cheaper than putting in a $250,000 switch gear or whatever.
I know.
So that's why the power will be off.
That's Saturday, right?
That will be Saturday.
This Saturday?
This
Yes.
Saturday.
This
That's
Saturday.
gonna kill power to the whole school.
Yeah.
So it could
And
impact
I
you
know I've done contacted
directly.
the principal,
Things.
I know Jack and some of them, and actually, if they had a problem, they may have to go up on the ridge behind it and turn the power off at a 3-phase site, the engineer told me. If he did that, it might affect Rock Springs also, but he didn't think it would have to happen that way. And if you go back, Dobbin's been, over the last 3 or 4 years in phases, has been replacing their switch gears and stuff like that because of the potential of the same situation happening. You know, at Central, what we're doing at HVAC, we're doing the same thing there, and that's sort of the last holdup of why power will be off there for about the whole month of June. We haven't got a definite date on it. Some of our old schools, that's a serious thing, that those switch gears start failing or something happening. Right now, to get one, it's almost a year out. So I would hate that to happen, and so it's something that we may have to start considering to do it in phases, and start replacing these old switch gears and bring them up to date.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. And one other item under the director's comments, and we've got a few of the A, B, and C there, but just found this out yesterday, and we'll definitely talk about it a little bit more at the full regular meeting, but we are very excited, very proud about this next announcement. Found out yesterday, Miller Perry is being nominated as a Blue Ribbon School for the city. Now, the significance of that is that there were only 6 schools in the state of Tennessee that were nominated. So they're wanted for high performance. And so this is a really big deal. And there's an application process. I'll talk a little bit more about the Blue Ribbon during the full meeting unless somebody wants me to do it now, but there'll be a application process that'll start now, go on for several months. They'll be looking at Miller Perry's background over the last several years. That application will be submitted, and then in the fall is when the final announcement will be of the award. And then if they are selected and it does finish out that they are a Blue Ribbon school, there'll be a trip to Washington DC in November, December, to be recognized. So I talked with Mr. Wilson, he was definitely excited as well for his students and his staff there. So that would be an awesome achievement.
We had one in Bristol, the late nineties, hosting View Elementary. It's major.
It's basically this says, a national blue ribbon is the most prestigious national school recognition. It is awarded to the highest performing schools as measured by state and national standardized tests, and the schools most successful in closing achievement gaps between the schools, student groups, and all students. Miller Perry fits in that first category of the highest performing schools is their category. Serves as a model for effective and innovative school practices for state and district educators and other schools throughout the nation. So,
They'll bring a lot of visitors to us.
yes. Yes, to see what they're doing there from all over the country. Absolutely. So we're very excited there. Staff recognition, we will be recognizing our Teachers of the Year, Principal of the Year, and Supervisor of the Year. So that'll be that with the recognition tonight. And then ask Ms. Magic to get this on our agenda way back before December even. Knew this was coming. We're hosting, Sullivan County, Sullivan East Robotics Team program. Ms. Margaret Trish has a international competition being held at the Bristol Motor Speedway for robotics this month, February. Not this weekend, but the following weekend, correct?
Correct.
And it'll big event there as well, international level. If you win at that or place, you are qualified for the world competitions later in the year. So they're going to be doing a short presentation for us downstairs. They probably are setting up and ready to go now. So excited for that as well. Number 6, under property updates, the Henry R. property auction went off with no bidders, but we have received a number of people after the auction ended, interested in placing a bid or making an offer. Some were represented by real estate companies. So we really will need to make a decision about what our next steps are there. Each time we open it up as an auction, there's a cost associated with that. So we wouldn't just want somebody to say, oh yeah, I'm in to bid on that. And don't think we're at a position where we can just accept an offer from an individual. So, is there anyone have a suggestion or a route that they want to pursue?
I think we said on it for the time being, do nothing.
It's not hurting us.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. Any other discussion? The old Austin warehouse we talked about during our work session, we just got an opinion from Chris McCarty's office. And basically, there's no set guarantee one way or the other. There was no precedent, there's no decision that matches what we're asking about. If we do a demolition and potentially create a bus maintenance building there, there was no other case that would say that yes or no, that's the way to go. So his opinion was it fit more under, it would likely be an educational use because we've been using it to transport students to school and back with the buses. And if those buses were in active use, that it would feel more like that was an educational use. So although he didn't have anything to support that 100%, he felt like, based on the cases that he had, that it would support that. So, do we want to proceed with getting bids for demolition, I guess is the next question on that. Think so?
I'd be in favor of it.
Would that be the vote tonight, so we'll put that in the vote. And then
Is there anything else over there we got now,
Charlie, anything in there about
You talking about demoing the whole building or just that auditorium section, the roofs?
just that one structure, not the other building? I clarified that.
The whole school building. We have a few things in the bottom.
And are you talking about the separate auditorium or whatever that
The
is?
second auditorium, I talked to Mr.
I
Evans.
think we need to leave the old gym.
Leave the
Yeah.
freestanding one?
Right.
Yeah, the gym
First,
is that.
that's what I thought we'd do it all, but Mr. Evans we just recently talked about it, and he said that one's still good for storage. But that's what we'll vote on tonight is demolition for the one structure that's got some issues. Letter C, 6C, snow slowed us down on getting Scott County back down here, but I did speak with their superintendent, and he has Mr. Hubbard's phone number, that we're gonna set up one more time to come back, so we're not ready to do anything else there until that's determined that they got all they're gonna get out. You haven't heard from him, I guess, have you? Well, I'll call him until we need to make a yes or no and go. All right. 6B, on this one, and this is a strategic move right here. So we're asking tonight for a bid authorization for the tree cutting on the West Ridge High School access road. And the reason being is if we put one bid out for the tree falling and also the road construction, we're gonna be basically into March. And April 1st is the deadline for having trees cut down. So by removing just the tree falling and doing it separately, we'll have the bids in the second week in February. If we can approve that, the executive committee, Mr. Price and I are able to approve those bids for just the bid for just the tree falling. And so we would need authorization or approval to do that. Good?
And that actually was one of the questions. We had the pre-bid out there today and we had 6 contractors show up. So that was one of the questions, how fast could we get this awarded? Because that only leaves them 4 or 5 weeks to get this done. And you're talking about a
about an acre and a half of clearing. So
Did
that's
anybody,
really pushing it.
anybody get scared at 4 or 5 weeks?
They had some questions, concerns, would you not say, Charlie? Some of them asked if they could actually just burn it on site instead of trying to get equipment in there to haul it out. It's a little bit challenging up on that ridge, I guess. So, I don't think that time concerned them if they can get the award pretty quick. It's just, I think, trying to get everything worked out, how to, I don't think felling them is the problem, probably, it's getting rid of it.
They're not
We told them
really
we do
interested in
need
logging it out to
Yeah.
sell or anything like that, wouldn't that
I
high
don't think
demand wood?
No.
No.
There's a lot of
They asked
wild
if they could-
roses they could get rid
That's
of
if they
for
could
you.
burn it on site, and I told them, well, yeah, as long as they got the TDEC, you know,
Approval.
the permit from the
Permit.
Tennessee Department of Forestry and stuff like that. But we sort of expected the ashes and what little bit was left to be gone too. And then they asked a question about chipping it up, mulching it. And I said, they said, do you use any? I said, no, not that kind, I don't. And we told them we'd probably have to remove that or try to burn it or something
Yeah.
instead of a big pile of mulch. So
We don't want it in the way of the, whoever
Contractors
gets the
doing great.
contract to build road. So, they got the message, we've got to have everything out of there by March 31st, but bat season starts April 1st.
And just to clarify, they will be cutting the trees at about 5 or 6 feet.
We actually talked to one of the contractors today, and I think we're gonna do an addendum to put maybe 3 to 5,
3 to
because
5.
when you're on that hill, if they're cutting at 5 feet, that's pretty high up, that's
To
kind
get
of
up there
dangerous.
to it.
Yeah, and that would leave enough for the contractors to come in here and
Yeah,
get the
push 'em out.
contract, push the roots.
I
all
was
out.
concerned about that height, how it could kick back, the
Yeah.
guy trying to saw up here.
Up here.
And then
You're on a
the
hill,
tree
when
could
it's
kick.
on that is on a hill.
Just need enough up, not to cut the stump off the ground, enough up that the contractor can get the root ball of the stump out of the ground. Give him something to push to with the dozer.
So we'll just be asking for the authorization for the executive committee to approve that bid. Under board policies, A through E, I think last meeting we had a question, Mr. Spivey, you'd asked about the revenues and where we're doing the CP, the free lunch for everybody. What we've determined is we ask students to pay those fees, but we're not required, we can't force students to pay them, any student. So,
Which fees are those?
any fees.
Athletic included.
Any fees. Now, if it's an extracurricular activity, they have the choice to participate or not, then it's different. Like band, or football, or whatever. You don't have to be a part of that.
That makes sense.
Right.
In the Constitution.
Right, but if it's something that
Require somebody to pay.
we require,
Free and public
field trip or
education.
whatever,
In the state, Tennessee, not federal. It only applies to counties.
and then under 2.8051, the credit cards and credit lines, Christie made the changes on there about the wording. So, on page 2, Dr. Palmer has some information on the homebound instruction and then the renewal of courses. Do you want to say anything to those 2 items, Brent?
Well, the renewal courses, it's just what it says. We're not really adding anything this year. We're simply asking for the state to renew those courses. You'll notice there are not any little CTE courses in there. We're steering away from that. They're strictly academic courses that we're asking for renewal. There are some courses that you may recognize are not there from previous years that we've asked for. So we're kind of cutting back on some of the courses that were extracurricular, that were, that's the wrong word for it, but that were not necessary or did not fill out well as far as student participation. So we're letting some things go, streamline a bit. So there's that.
Anything on homebound instruction that needs real clarification or explanation?
So the homebound policy has not been updated in quite some time. This was actually a recommendation that was given to us a couple years back, and somewhere along the way, it wasn't updated. So this is something that's overdue to update the policy. I don't think there's anything tricky in this. If you have any questions or any concern, I'm glad to speak to it, but it's just an update that's needed to happen for a while.
Letter C through F are grants and budget amendments. And then letter G, this is a resolution that we've been kind of going back and forth on. This will bring the funds over to our office over here, being a dedicated restricted line, and it will be designated for projects related to the fields at East, the softball and baseball fields. Ingrid, am I leaving anything out on that?
I just think I need to tell you about the Safe Schools Grant and the Public
okay.
School Security Grant. These were a little bit different than we've ever had before. Safe Schools Grant, they allowed us to carry over what was not spent in last year and spend it in this year, as long as we spend it before December the 31st, correct?
Correct, there's an 18-month grant, which is unusual.
Never known them to do that before. When we created the budget, we didn't know they were gonna do that, so we need to recognize that grant. We have that money, we've already got it, we've already spent it, everything's done, but I did not include it in the budget when we created the budget for 23-24, so that's just recognizing that. The Public School Security Grant, that's the governor's money that he released late in the game. It is grant we've already received, we're good for it, we just need to recognize it in that budget, because it was not included. Again, I failed to put it in the 23-24 budget.
If you didn't feel to, it wasn't there yet.
It was a little late arriving, so.
After the fact, right?
Any questions on any of those items?
Yeah, I've got a quick question. Is there any update on the lighting? Can anybody, I get some questions about where we're at, the lighting on the baseball field. I know that, you got any kind
Janine is working on that. She's like, Janine, she mentioned
so
that
the architects
tonight.
are working on it? So the bids will be,
We don't have a schedule for
Yeah,
that
we don't have a
project
schedule
yet.
yet.
is it possible we can get it done before the season starts?
That's,
No.
I don't think so.
I had a conversation with Musco, who done our two new schools. He said the materials was 8 to 10 weeks out,
How much?
8 to 10 weeks out, so probably not.
So, you know, they won't be able to play any night games.
And that was just it, I mean, you know, because he don't have the bid, he was just in a conversation that
So it'll be 8 to 10 weeks.
he
when we
said
get-
to get materials on site would be 8 to 10 weeks.
And I would say that was typical, even if you didn't,
Yes.
if Musco didn't get it.
Right,
So if it was
any
another
company that,
manufacturer.
to get materials mobilized and get there would be 8 to 10 weeks to get them ordered and to get them there, is what and that was the recommendation from Musco.
Probably that one pole down, does that knock out night games, you think?
I don't know, I'm afraid it might, I don't know, unless some person turned the lights on and looked, it might be some dark spots, it might be a
Not
safety
creating
thing.
too
I'd hate to have a dark spot out there.
Be safe to say they need to plan.
Trying to plan a game starting times to where they're not playing in the dark.
Is the baseball field at Sullivan East Middle, is it too small? Too small. It's not regulation for high school. You get a lot of home runs.
Be fun.
I have one question, just for clarification. I didn't understand, and I'm sure it's off me, but I didn't understand Janine's response when I asked about the East High School. I guess at some point when we were talking about renovations and needing to do something, you pointed out that we needed to first get the report from Janine on what all they needed to do at East and Indian Springs and other places. And when I asked that question, she said something about looking at the front door. Well, it's not just the entrance, the front door at East, it's other things. So did I misunderstand something? Is that still?
I asked for an overall plan of what we could do
Yes.
with renovation for the
Yes.
three schools. But what she did was, she came back with the answer that, she gave early on when they gave us a partial list of what could be done out of ESSER money, and that was the front,
Right.
entrance, and then some things down there Hughes. But my recommendation, the last time we sent it back to her, was that she tell us what it would take to renovate Indian Springs, Mary Hughes, and east. And I said, then from there, we would have to compile whatever plan we wanted to move
So
forward
it
with.
wasn't just me that.
No, it wasn't.
No, but
So will
what
you
she,
follow up
no, well,
on that?
I did, what she told me was, and this is backstory for me, so when she looked for, when we were looking at doing that study, that's when all the ESSER money came in.
Yes.
And it was determined to start making the focus be on the roofs and the other
Yes.
projects. So she said at that point, they'd kind of stopped.
Yes.
So they've not started back, and
And we said go back.
Go ahead.
And evidently,
They just haven't done
They
that
haven't.
yet.
right, with all the other projects going on.
It's on their agenda.
Okay.
But there's,
As long as it's on the agenda, that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
I just thought,
But it needs to be on, let's make sure it's on the agenda for a
Yeah.
complete
I
proposal.
think that's the thing,
That's
is
the
we,
thing.
we gotta
Yes.
say, we want a
Yes.
complete proposal, they're waiting on us to
I mean,
give
we
the go-ahead.
don't, we
Well, I
don't
think
need
we-
any more
you did.
patching.
We
We
did.
know
Yeah,
she's
what we
already
can
got
do.
it.
Okay, she just needs to
Yeah.
pick back up and, yeah.
Yeah,
But-
and I
but-
think that's what they kind of stopped,
Yeah.
was finish up
Yeah.
some of this, especially ESER two, and then of course ESER three is
It's
ongoing,
on
so
the-
we can have that
But
conversation.
make sure that it's more than just the front.
Right.
Right.
And we can have that conversation when we're.
Thanks.
Yeah, we're ready.
All right, we'll move on downstairs.
Six or 7 hours.
Margaret's gonna be around 6 or 7. But the snow. Yeah.
16, 17.
I was what we're, and tell her about, tell them I can't make a promise.
I know,
Yeah.
I had a couple of questions for you, Sherman Estate. We don't have to go out now.
Okay.
On the TCAP test, are there some grades that teachers circle, when the kids circle?
And the booklet helps me. I
And
can
then
see it
teachers,
as well.
go back and.
Not a TCAP, they don't. Benchmark.
Sorry.
No, thank you for doing all
Paying
that.
any attention?
You'd have to be third grade.
We do that again down there.
Benchmarks. So